I'm Will with Farmer in Red.
I'm Wes, otherwise known as PD Farmer.
Today we're going to be installing a 2010 through 2018 Ram 25 and 3500 Ranch Hand Legend Series front bumper. Alright, so today on this install, we will need a 10mm deep socket and wrench. We will need an 11mm deep socket and wrench. We'll need a 13mm deep socket and shallow socket and wrench. We'll need an 18mm deep socket and wrench. We'll need a 3/4 deep and shallow socket and wrenches. We'll also need 11/16 deep, shallow, and wrench. And we'll also need a 5/8 deep and wrench. We'll also need some ratchets. This pry tool here, if you don't have this pry tool, you can also use a screwdriver. And we'll need a long, a medium, and short extension and a swivel. And it'd be very helpful to have some impacts. All right, so what we're going to want to do here first is we'll get our 10mm socket and we'll start removing the bolts to hold our fender well in. And you'll have this on the driver and the passenger side.
Okay, for this next part, you're going to want to take and locate your fog light connector. It's usually right behind the driver's side front fender well. To release this connector, you just need to push down on this tab and pull. And then your fog light connector is free. And you're free to, well, you want to take this bracket here loose too. Now you're free to remove your bumper. Okay, for this next part, we're going to want to remove these two 18mm nuts on the frame rail. This one and the one up here. And they're on this side and the opposing passenger side over there. Now we're moving to the top bolt. You're just going to break it loose too. Now we're going to repeat the previous steps on the passenger side. After removing both nuts on both sides, you will take this bracket that holds the two studs through the frame rail loose.
Our next step here, we're going to remove these 4 push clips running across the front. And this will remove the plastic cover.
The previous owner stole a bolt.
Should we put a fake bolt in there?
No.
The next step, we're going to remove the 4 bolts running across the front to remove the grill. These are 10mm.
Now that the grill is removed, we may proceed to the next step. For our next step, we'll remove our plastic coverings to get access to our intercooler bolts and bushings located here.
And on the passenger side, we'll use our tool here, or a screwdriver, and we will pop these out. And we have one here. And we'll pull this around to give us access to get our intercooler bolts here.
For this next step, we will be removing these 4 13mm bolts located here, 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 and here that hold the intercooler brackets on. So you can move the intercooler out of the way to remove the studs that hold the main bumper on.
So when removing the bumper, this is the bolts you have to pull out. And these will be located right here on the frame.
In order to get those bolts out, you have to drop this intercooler bushing here and over here, which you can do between the top gap of the factory bumper. It just takes a little time. And then what I found easiest was to remove these two 13mm bolts holding the intercooler bracket on and dropping the complete intercooler assembly together. And then I pulled this shroud off as a whole, and it gave me the clearance to pull those linked bolts out. And then I was able to drop the whole bumper.
So once you take your bolts off on each side of the frame rail, remove your front bumper. We're going to unplug our fog lights, and we're going to unbolt the factory part. And we'll just have a repeat process for the driver's side. Your fog lights out of your factory bumper, you will leave your factory brackets left on the fog light. You'll take the nuts and bolts provided, and you'll fasten it to the factory bracket. Once you put these in and tighten them up, you'll repeat the same process on the other side. Now we're going to put our fog light in. We will take 3/4 bolts and nuts provided. These two holes here. Washer and lock washer on the back side with the nut. So you're going to take two 3/4 wrenches and you'll tighten the two bolts to hold the fog light assembly on. And you'll repeat this process on the other side. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do with our special tool or screwdriver, we're going to pop out all of the plastic rivets holding on the factory fog light wiring harness. Now that you have your factory wiring harness out, you'll run it through these two holes here on the wrench hand. Do the first one, and then you'll come down to the second hole. Same process on the other side. Take your 3/4 ratchet and wrench and remove the toe hooks. And again, you repeat the same process on the other side.
Now we're going to be reinstalling our intercooler brackets with the two 13mm bolts that we took off prior. Next, we're going to be taking the supplied wrench hand brackets and installing them onto the frame rails on the passenger side.
All right, now we're going to use our 3/4 wrench, and we have a 3/4 socket. You can use a ratchet or an impact.
now that both brackets are installed on both frame rails of the truck, we can install the wrench hand. Now we're going to install the grille and then we can put the wrench end on.
After you get the bumper to where you're happy with the fitment, you can tighten the 8 bolts that hold it to the frame. This part's always helpful to have a friend that can hold the wrench on the back of the truck while you tighten the tow hooks with a impact.
Install. All you gotta do is push them down into place. Now we'll be reinstalling the factory tow hooks, and they will reuse the factory bolts. You can reach them easily right here, putting your hand behind it, and you'll repeat the same process here on the other side. Alright, now that we have everything hooked up and bolted down, we'll come under here and we're going to plug our factory wiring harness for the fog lights back into the truck. If your truck does not have the part sensors, they do send little plugs to fill the holes. If you do, they send rivets to make them fit. Just snap them in. Repeat the process over the next 6 holes. I ain't got it on.
No, you gotta get me in there first.
Oh, you cooking. Alright.
Should we put our safety goggles on now?